Hey, so my name is Yared Velasquez, aka Kid from Ponce. I'm a MMA fighter. I also compete in other combative sports, in kickboxing, Muay Thai. I also compete in Jiu-Jitsu. Um, I'm also an instructor at my gym. I teach kids from ages 4 to 6, ages 7 to 12, and I also teach adults too as well. I'm also training at Charlottesville, down in Charlottesville. So my relationship with Ivy Rehab has evolved tremendously. I started as a regular patient back when I was wrestling in high school. I graduated back in 2019, and with wrestling, there's it's so intense. There's a lots of injuries that happen as a high school wrestler. I wasn't the best when it came to nutrition. I wasn't really well educated when it came to all that. So injuries happen left and right. I needed some sort of physical therapy. I searched something local around my area, and I found Ivy Rehab. And I just started as a patient, and they helped me out with a few couple injuries. As high school progressed, and after high school, I stopped training for a little bit. I kind of worked on local jobs, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. Then I came to the point where I knew what I wanted to do in my life. I wanted to pursue my career as a professional fighter. But I knew with pursuing that career, I needed a team for medical reasons, as in like physical therapy and to kind of get me back on the mat. So as I was pursuing my career, injuries did happen again. With jujitsu, a new martial art that I've never trained before, a lot of things happen with my body, shoulders and knees and ankles. So I went back to Ivy Rehab, and it became a consistent thing. I was always there. I was showing up. I was creating a relationship with Ivy Rehab, and it got to the point where maybe 2 years in, they've helped me so much, and I was able to have a big national title. I won a national title back in 2023, because I was able to recover fast enough from my MCL injury. And right after that, I just talked to them. I was like, "Hey guys, like, you guys have been there in my corner all the way, and I want you guys to be in my corner all the way till I go into the professional leagues." And I asked, "Is there any way we can kind of get a sponsorship going?" And they were right away. They're like, "God, like, hey man, like this is a great idea. Let's get you going. Let's get you rolling." I remember specifically, I was talking to Alex Theodoridis, who is one of the main guys at the Ivy Rehab Clinic. So he just got me set up. He did everything in the background, got he went to corporate, introduced the idea, and got back to me. And in the beginning of the year of 2024, I was sponsored by them. Um, so that in itself, like that's kind of when things started kicking. And then it's now evolved into where I have direct access to Ivy Rehab, which means after each competition, or let's just say I get an injury, usually you would have to go in as a patient and request or like make an appointment to get seen by a physical therapist. With direct access, it's basically as soon as I send them a text message, it's as soon as a text message I send them, they'll be like, "Hey, like we can get you in today. Hey, we can get you in tomorrow." It's as quick as that versus me having to go through like a doctor's referrals, that can take like a week or two. I don't have the time for that to be sitting to the side because there's so many opportunities for me as a combative athlete that I need to be getting on. So me having that access to just go in whenever I can has shaped everything for me perfectly. Like it's given me confidence in a way where I know that they have my back regardless. So it's involved for it. To me, Ivy Rehab, I've evolved from just being a regular patient into having direct access as a sponsored athlete, and that in itself, like, it's changed everything. Also my family goes there too as well. They've helped out my family too, and they help out my teammates and everybody. All my coaches that like train at Gracie Charlottesville, like they know all about Ivy Rehab, and we have we have a way of like getting the people at my gym to get to Ivy Rehab quick as possible. So it's been really helpful. So let's talk about that MCL tear just a little bit. So I received it at a local jiu-jitsu tournament. This was in Maryland. I was going against a D1 wrestler, and he took me down. And at the time, I did not have the best hip mobility, and my knee got tweaked in a way where my hip mobility was bad. So all the damage, all the blunt force of it was taken on my MCL, right? And that's where it wasn't a full tear, but it was like a half tear. It was where I couldn't walk. It was still it was swollen up. I couldn't do anything, for like the first 2 or 3 days. That's what I thought, at least. I was like, man, I can't do anything for a week. But I went to Ivy Rehab, and it was the help of Ivy Rehab and a couple other coaches, strength and conditioning coaches, that kind of helped me out too as well when it came to the nutrition part of it. But Ivy Rehab just took me in right away, and we were just like, hey, like, we can't just like babysit this MCL tear, because like usually if you were to go to like a doctor, they would be like, hey, like, you got to tear, you got to take 3 months off, just like they'll just like tape it or whatnot, 3 months off. I can't do that, and I have a national tournament coming up in like 4 or 5 weeks. I can't afford that, so I'm like, hey guys, like, I went to our rehab. I was like, hey guys, so this is what's going on. I have this tournament in 4 or 5 weeks. I've already been kind of training for it, but I need to stay on in my inside my fight camp. Fight camp is meaning that when we're preparing for a specific tournament or specific fight, and I can't be out of fight camp. I went to them. I gave them my goals and my ambition. I was like, hey guys, like, I need this to be good for to be able to perform at a national level. And they're going to be realistic as possible. They're not going to tell you like, yeah, we're going to get this. You're going to be fully healed in 4 weeks. They're like, hey, like, we're gonna do our best, but a lot of that stuff is gonna have to come from you too as well. Like, you can give anybody like exercises, you can give them ways to get better, but in reality, like, if they don't do it, if they don't pursue to do those little things, then nothing's gonna happen. So to me, they gave me a whole bunch of exercises to do, right, like twice a day, to kind of just focus on strengthening the MCL. It was a lot of mundane stuff. And what I mean by that is a lot of very simple stuff. It's not exciting stuff. It's stuff that's like boring. But something that I noticed is like the boring things, the very mundane stuff, is actually what works. And I was able to connect that with my training. And what I mean by that is foundations. Anything fundamentals, foundations wise, in my training is very mundane stuff, like working on your stance for a whole hour. That's very boring, but it's very much needed for you to build a solid foundation. The same thing in physical therapy. It was like we were doing these exercises, and I understood. It clicked to me that, like, as little as what we're doing right now, and I don't feel like doing them, or I feel like maybe they're not gonna get me back in time. I just trusted the process. I trusted the process. I trusted what they had to say, and I took it as training. I'm like, okay, I have a national tournament in 4 weeks. This is for me training. I need to get my body back to where it was to be able to compete at that national tournament. Now, 4 weeks pass by, and my knee is almost, I would say, like, completely healed. It's feeling really, really good, And like I said, I've had other help, other sources of help, like Adapt. It's my strength and conditioning gym. They help me out with my strength and conditioning. I do it twice a week. And I have a nutritionist too that helps me out. So they were kind of helping me out on the nutrition part. In fact, I was able to get my Adapt coach to kind of connect with my physical therapist at Ivy Rehab, Alex, and they were able to kind of just communicate with each other like a team, like, hey, he did this today, so he shouldn't be doing this today, or we didn't do this today, so he should be working on this today. So it was just a whole plan just mapped out for me on how to get back and ready for this national tournament. My mindset going into this, I had a lot of confidence, because first I was kind of blown away that my knee was like, man, I can kind of like squat, I can jump, I can do a lot of the stuff. I can fight the way my knee is. I'm like, man, it's crazy to think that 4 weeks ago, I couldn't even walk. I thought, I was like, man, like, this is it. Like, I'll be out for a few months for sure. And so I just took it with grace. I was like, okay, they did their job. I did my part. All my whole team did everything they did to help me get ready for this. I'm here at the tournament. My mindset is I have a lot of confidence. I was in my head. We all something that the coaches always tell me is one match at a time at the tournament. Don't even try to think about winning the whole tournament, because sometimes as an athlete, you trying to put that self pressure on yourself. It's just too much. You're putting a lot too pressure on your shoulders, and then let's just say you lose the first match, and then everything kind of like crashes down. Versus if I tell myself I'm just focusing on my one match, I take one match at a time. It's like my one match is my finals match. Every match is my finals match, because in reality it was. You lose, you're done. It's one and done. There's no like you'll get a second chance to fight back all the way to the finals. You're done. This was in Texas too as well. So I went from Charlottesville, and took a flight all the way to Texas. Took days off. I was yeah, it's a lot on the line, but just trying to tell myself that one match at a time was able to give me kind of like it relaxed me. It kept me focused, you know. And also, like, I already had the confidence from my knee. I knew I was able to perform well with my knee, and as each match kept going, won the first match, won the second match, won the third match, it's just like staying consistent, staying calm until I won the finals match, and I was able to win that national title in 2023. So my mindset going in there was very strong, was very confident, and I think a lot of that confidence I was able to gain from knowing that I had a team with me that already who got me back into that great performance that I had in nationals. They were there to kind of help me out, and Ivy Rehab just made kind of like what I thought was the impossible possible. And for that, I was able to win the national title in 2023. As in for techniques, I don't really have a very specific technique, but I will say the concept of adding plyometrics and mobility work has been a big deal for me. So in wrestling, like I said, back in wrestling, I wasn't educated, and like just like overall health. I was just doing what I was told to do. Everything was go go go. And at the time, like I, I wasn't really athletic. I was just like just a kid out there just trying to do his best. Just to wrestle. And you have that. But I really started getting I started really digging into getting my athleticism by doing these little things like plyometrics, or mobility. So like for techniques wise, it's more of a concept. I use I use like jumps, like very specific like jump variations to kind of get my body going. Skips. I'm a huge guy for skips. Skips kind of get my blood pumping. And this is something that I do always before training, before a fight, especially a fight. I don't like doing static stretching before. You know. I just found that doesn't work for me as well. I like breaking a sweat, and I like working on something that gets me explosive, and plyometrics I think has really helped me a lot. And I give a lot of thanks to Ivy Rehab to kind of helping me out with plyometrics, but also my strength and conditioning gym too. They've kind of introduced to me and given me different variations of plyometrics. Now, plyometrics with mobility work, I was not a flexible kid growing up. Like especially in wrestling, we had this like very specific stance, and we didn't really stretch a lot. And anytime anybody like lifted my leg up, I would just fall over, because it's just like my hip mobility was not there. And this goes back to where I told you I didn't have good hip mobility, therefore that's why I got the MCL um partial tear, on my knee. But one of the cool things about Ivy Rehab when I went back there is we're like, okay, so we figured out what the issue was. It wasn't because you didn't have strong ligaments. You have strong ligaments. The way I'm training, the way I'm eating, you have strong ligaments. But we got to think about what's outside the box, and outside the box was my hip flexors. The way my hip flexors were is what kind of gave up on me when I got taken down, and a lot of that blunt force was taken on my knee. So what we did instead, in that 4 week period, was we were doing a lot of hip mobility stuff. We were still focusing on the knee, but even like before the tournament, the national tournament, and after national tournament, and until now, I've been working on my hip mobilities, things like 90/90s, um, that in itself has been game changer for me. For like recovery tools, I love using a sauna. I use the sauna air like 5 to 6 days a week after I'm done with my hard training. I go in there for maybe 20 to 30 minutes. I like to kind of like stretch out, and it's just great. For me, it just works so well. I get good sleep. It's just very beneficial. Ivy Rehab, I love what they have when it comes to their recovery equipment. They have these neurotechs where you kind of like you put around your legs and they compress your legs and they like promote the blood flow around your legs. This is great for like when I have sore legs, and a lot of the times my legs are always sore, even if it's from wrestling, if it's from even just like jumping, if it's from just being in my stance or just sparring or fighting or kicking. My legs are always taking a lot of blunt force and damage. So having that available to me has been such a game changer. They also have foam rollers that vibrate too as well. So it's just like really digging into the muscle. So if my quads are sore, my hamstrings are sore, my back is tight, my shoulders are tight, those foam rollers just come in super clutch. Just so good. It just kind of opens up my body. I just feel great, like later on the day. Now, during the moment, if you're sore and you're trying to foam roll and it's vibrating, it kind of sucks, It kind of sucks in the moment, but I've gotten to the point where I know it's gonna suck temporarily right now, but it's gonna pay off a little bit later, and one of my favorite things about what they have in their facility is they have this awesome ice plunge, and I'm a big advocate for a good like cold plunge, like maybe 2 to 3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. I feel great afterwards. I just feel light. I feel like my body, like all my aches and pains, it's just gone. I have the best sleep too as well. So they're like recovery tools. I use all of that. I try to use all of it because it's been just so good for my body, and all those aches and pains just eventually go away. Instead of just like not doing anything about it. There's recovery and then there's active recovery. That is, I'm a big proponent about active recovery. Even on the day so you don't feel like you don't want to do anything, you're tired, maybe you're sick or anything, you can go for a walk. You can do these certain things, foam roll. Those are active recovery, and it's great for you. And actually, it promotes recovering faster for the next day, which I need. Like an example, I'll go in on a Sunday, and I'll do like active recovery, and I'm tired, I'm sore, but I'm fresh for Monday, and I have a whole week ready, just training. And then we repeat the process. Maybe we'll do a Saturday or Sunday, but on Monday I'm good to go. And those are the important days because Mondays through Fridays are my hard training days at my gym. So weight cuts are super tough, and unless if you have a team that already has a planned out, play by play, like what to do, it's always going to be really tough because you're going to learn by mistakes in weight cuts. You're going to be like, okay, usually for me, my personal example is like back in high school wrestling, and I'm going back to by a lot to like high school wrestling is because there was a lot of mistakes that I did that I learned that's benefiting me now, that I learned from, and a lot of the stuff is like, there was this big miscommunication, or not misconception on that you need to eat less, drink less, and still having to do those harsh workouts. And that in itself is not smart because first you're not if you're not eating enough, right? If you're not eating the proper foods, if you're not drinking enough fluids, and you're trying to do those harsh workouts, that in itself is that recipe is equals injury. Therefore, that's why I was getting injured a lot in wrestling, because I was malnourished, I was dehydrated. Therefore, simple things like running, sprinting, like I would twist my ankle, and just like a basic twist of the ankle, something that could be like, okay, I can shake this off in one day or two, but no, like your body doesn't have the nutrition, doesn't have anything in your body to like recover as fast, so you're out for like 2 3 weeks, maybe a month, because you're so malnourished. Um, So the biggest thing for me, weight cut, like how I keep my peak performance is a lot of it is nutrition. A lot of it is nutrition. It's actually eating when the proper times to eat and what to eat. So let's just say if I have a weight cut coming up in 2 months, which I do have a weight cut coming up in 2 months. I have a fight May 24th in Richmond. I know starting now, what you start doing now, it's gonna definitely pay big time when the time comes to weight cut. So right now, I'm eating a high protein. I'm eating my carbs. I'm eating my fiber, my veggies. And just kind of like keeping track of my calories for the time being and eating correct foods. I'm not eating ice cream, every single day. I'm not eating crap foods because stuff like that, your body's gonna reject. It's not good for your gut health. And you gotta talk about your metabolism. The only reason you do this is to set your metabolism correct. Because if you have a bad metabolism and you're trying to weight cut, your body's gonna be super stingy with you. And what I mean by that, let's just say, right now, if I were to stop eating carbs for the next 2 months, right? I'm barely eating carbs. First, my energy level is gonna deplete. I'm gonna feel like crap. My training camp is not even gonna be that good. That's number one. Number two, when you're doing this weight cut, this water loading phase, how I usually do this big weight cut is you want to do a big water loading phase. You drink maybe like 2 gallons one day, then the next day 2.5. I mean, 1.5, and then one, and then the pattern is you drink less and less and less, right? Now, what you're eating is if you've been eating carbs the whole time, right? And then you stop eating carbs for that one week, right? Or not, don't completely stop eating carbs, but let's just say you reduced it from, let's just say you're eating 200 grams of carbs a day to like 100 or 50 grams. Your weight is gonna just come off just like that with the water loading phase. And the reason why is carbs hang on to so much water, you know, and you're already doing that water loading phase, meaning that you're gonna go to the restroom a lot. You're gonna pee it out. You're gonna pee it out, or you're gonna sweat it out. And carbs retain water, right? And you start taking out the carbs little by little, little by little, little by little. The weight is gonna start coming off little by little. But now, let's just say you messed up. You haven't been eating carbs at all. Your energy is feeling low or whatnot. Coming to this weight cut, you're gonna have to like cut even more. So whatever carbs you've been eating, like you've been eating like barely any carbs, you're gonna have to cut that. And your body is already stingy. It's already greedy. It's already like going through this shock phase that it's not gonna want to give that up. So therefore, the weight is gonna be so stingy it doesn't want to come off, and the suffering is going to have to increase. Then you're going to be talking about like not just physical toll but mental toll. And if you do it incorrectly, I mean, there's been a lot of cases where it's been really dangerous. A lot of people end up in the hospital because they do it too quick, or they do it incorrectly. So it's a very dangerous thing. And that's why I say weight cutting in itself is a skill set. The more you do it, the more you learn, and the better you get at it. Now, going back to being a combative athlete, it's not just an individual sport. Sure, you go and fight one guy in the ring, it's just you and him. But you also have a team. It's a team effort. Weight cutting is a team effort. I cannot do what I do. I cannot go in the bathtub and cut all that weight off and just having to maneuver my own self, getting in, getting out, doing exercising, because you're at such a depleted spot. I mean, uh, you're going from you're trying to lose 10% of your body weight in that last week. Let's just talk about that. So 10% is like 12 pounds, like, and in that last hour, like that day where you weigh in, like maybe hours out, that's when most of your weight comes off, like maybe 6, 7 pounds. You know, that is like the ultra depletion of your body. Like you're physically physically exhausted. Your body is going through some strenuous activities, and you can be mentally all there intact, but your body is not going to respond to you. So you need a team there to help you out. They help me get out of the bathtub. They help me put me back in the bathtub. They help me put on my sauna suit. They inspire me to get, few movements. They are there to just make sure that I'm okay, because what I'm going through is a very it's a dramatic experience, you know. If you haven't weight cut, it's a dramatic thing, you know. And they're just there to make sure first your safety's there, and they're weight cutting with you too as well. You know, they're not drinking any water around you. They're not eating food around you because they know your athlete, you know, is hungry. Your athlete is thirsty to the brink of like um it's dehydration to the max, you know. So they're very conscious with that, and they're helping you out with every step of it, all the way until weigh-ins. And even after weigh-ins, when you're done with your when your weigh-ins, they're there to take care of you, rehydrate you the best way possible, you know. And there's a lot of strategies, there's a lot of sciences, like when it comes to weight cutting and rehydrating afterwards. It's insane. You know, I'm still learning every weight cut. I'm still learning. So I learn something new every single time. Maybe like for an example, my what I learned last time was the temperature of the bathtub was a little bit too hot. If it's too hot, it's dangerous. It's super dangerous. First of all, being in the hot tub, but the higher the temperature, the more strain it's on your body. Therefore, when you're trying to recover, you don't recover as much. So going to this next weight cut, we're gonna go in the bathtub, but the water's not gonna be too hot. It's just gonna be hot enough just to start getting the sweat going to raise that core temperature. Once we have that, I get out the bathtub, I put my sauna suit, they'll bundle me up like a burrito. You know, I don't know if you guys seen it, but basically they'll basically wrap you around with like a whole bunch of blankets. You know, your whole face, everything's wrapped around except for your like your face, right? And you're just sweating and just sweating. You know, it's just like a methodical way. You're not really exercising because at this point you're not having that much carbs. You're dehydrated. You don't need a lot of strain. You know, you just need to lay down and sweat, and you're going to be sweating a lot because of that water loading phase that you did to that week. You know, you went from 2 gallons to 1.5 to 1 1/4 and into no water. You know, you're gonna just your body's just gonna be sweating all that out, or you're gonna be, you know, peeing it all out. Rehydration after weigh-ins is in itself, it's a skill too as well. A lot of this, like, you need a team to kind of help you and tell you what to do, you know. And over time you start learning these certain things that you need to do, and over time each body is different. In these 3 years that I've been doing, I just been learning so much about myself that I didn't know. I know certain, like, my own metabolism. I know that, like, if I eat 2 pounds of food that night, you know, and it could be anything. It could be anything. Well, like whole foods, not processed foods. Like, if I do eat 2 pounds of ice cream, then that's gonna be a problem. But if I do 2 pounds of like whatever protein meal or whatever carbs, and I go and I wake up in the morning, I lose 2 pounds. I know that, and because I battle tested that for these 2 months that I've been preparing for it. You know, I know if I eat at 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and I wake up and I have a full 8 9 hours of sleep, I wake up, I'm 2.5 pounds under. So it's just knowing about your body, and that gives you confidence going to these weight cuts. You know, weight cuts for me used to be scary. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's scary for everybody. You know, every athlete's coming in, they see it, they're like, man, like that looks scary. Like, what do you mean I don't get to eat? What do you mean I don't get to drink? You know, it's once you go through it, it's not as bad because if you have a team with you, it's definitely not as bad. You feel the support on it. It's still tough going through that week on that weight cut. You know, it's not an easy thing. You know, it's definitely not an easy thing. If I think if one thing separated from a lot of people from doing a lot of combat sports, it would be the weight cutting. It wouldn't be the actual competing. It wouldn't be maybe the practices. You know, it will be the weight cutting portion. You know, I think that's what holds a lot of people from actually being a fighter or combative athlete, because the physical toll and the mental toll that it takes, you know, even if you do it correctly, it's still tough, you know, and that's why you need a team to do it with you. I would tell myself, like, a younger version of myself when I first started, is um what I would tell anybody else is focus on your fundamentals. You know, you see all this cool stuff you see in UFC or in boxing, high level stuff, highlight reels, you know, that gets exciting, you know, and sometimes that gets people to start motivated to start training, you know. And then run into the issue of doing the mundane stuff, like I was talking about earlier with the Ivy Rehab, doing this physical therapy exercises. It's just not exciting. Um, but that is super important. That is actually what's going to get you better. I would tell that to anybody, any new beginner that comes in, and I'm coaching that class. I will tell them, guys, for you to throw a punch, you guys need to focus on your footwork. If you don't have anything with your footwork, nothing else is going to work. And that's why we really just drill and really focus on doing the simple and basic things. Simple and the basics win fights, they win championship rounds, they win titles. Just doing the basics. You see that everywhere. You see that in wrestling. You see that in baseball. You see that in Olympics. You see it everywhere. It's just the basics. The only reason you see those highlight reels of like exotic moves or crazy moves is because those moves are like you're not expecting them. Those moves are like they're insane because no one expected that to happen. But you see a lot of people winning fights, winning tournaments, whatever sport they're in, with just sticking to the basics. So that's something that I will tell somebody, kind of some advice that whoever's trying to get into some martial arts. And I will also tell them for recovery wise, I will start with first the nutrition. I think nutrition is the foundation to everything. For you to avoid getting injured and going to physical therapy, focus on your nutrition. Eat protein, eat at least maybe 1 gram per body weight. And that's a lot of protein. A lot of people, you'd be surprised, are under eating that amount. It's super important. Protein in itself is going to help you kind of just like build your muscles, like not only just build your muscles, but recover your muscles on the days that you're sore. Eating your carbs, eating your fiber, being super, super disciplined in your nutrition, it's going to avoid, I'm going to say, about 50 to 60% of all your injuries. Of course, you're going to have freak injuries. If you twist your ankle and you couldn't help it, right? Or somebody kicks you, or you fall a certain way. Freak injuries happen. That's why we have physical therapy. But you can decrease the percentage of you getting yourself injured if you focus on nutrition. So start eating your protein, eat well, track your calories, see how much you're eating. You'd be surprised, a lot of people are under eating nowadays. A lot of people are, you'd be surprised. I was under eating, and I caught myself too as well. My coach told me how much you're eating, and I started tracking this stuff. I was eating 1,500 calories. That's just like that. If you guys don't know what 1,500 calories is, if you're an athlete and you're training twice a day for about 4 to 6 days and you're eating 1,500 calories, you're depriving yourself of so much. You need to be eating at least, depending on how much you weigh, at least over 2,300 calories or more. Just because you need that much food and calories to support your training, especially if you're a combative athlete trying to get into what I'm doing. You need that food to support you and to avoid injuries. Now, you get injured, freak injury happens, or let's just say the nutrition wasn't the best, then I suggest going to a physical therapy, instead of, I want to necessarily, unless if it's something that you need to get an MRI scan, or you broke your leg, go to the doctor. But I'm a really big component in going to like either your strength and conditioning coaches or going to your physical therapy or physical therapist, because they can help you get back faster than just taking time off to rest. Man, that's crazy because I actually have a couple like exotic moves that I do myself. They're not really a high percentage, but um like I've in a jiu-jitsu match I've hit flying arm bars, and I've hit flying triangles. I've in Muay Thai, like my past tournament that I had at USA Grand Nationals, I hit everybody with a spinning elbow to the face. Something that I would do in MMA. I can definitely, I'm really good with my takedowns, and I say my go-to move will be a suplex. Probably just suplexing somebody right on their head. It doesn't sound nice. Well, it's not supposed to be nice, but suplexing somebody on their heads or on their neck will be something that I see myself doing. I'm a big takedown guy. I like striking too, but I grew up with wrestling. Wrestling is a lot of takedowns. You're slamming somebody and you're repping that, for years, so that's something that's built within me. I'm going to carry that foundation of wrestling all the way into my MMA career.